the customer takes action, and then after taking action, everything else follows. Whether the objective was for them to subscribe, to download, it sort of achieved its objective. When we move to the growth marketing funnel, I usually say the growth marketing funnel is fluid. And I say it's fluid because different things interchange at different points depending on the problem that you're solving. So immediately, the growth marketing funnel is action-oriented, and you're starting with acquisition. So the first thing you want to drive is acquisition, whether acquisition is through getting a customer to download or subscribe or call. You already have the customer's information. You use that customer's information to activate them. So the customer called, but they haven't downloaded. What do you need to do to get them to download? The customer downloaded, but they haven't subscribed. What do you do to get them to subscribe? If it's a learning platform, they've subscribed, they've paid, but there's 0 learning hours. What do you need to do to get them to start taking the classes? So that's the activation bit. Activation moves you from reaching the customer to getting them to start using the service. Once they start using the service, you're only as good as how many customers you keep. So you move to the retention stage. And then once you're at retention, if a customer is happy with your service, how do you get them to speak to another customer about the service? If it's the learning platform, the courses are valuable. How do you get them to speak to other potential students to enroll? That's the referral bit. And everything you're doing here is attached to a revenue figure. So if you think about it that way, and you look at my initial example, you have 100,000 students, all of them are taking one course. How do we increase revenue? So one of the philosophies for growth marketing is that you need to keep asking questions. And those questions always start with a why. And the first question is, so why do we need to increase revenue? The answers could be varied. We probably need to improve our technology. We need to get a new learning management system, and it has to tie again to your customers who are the students. If the why is clear, the second question is, then why aren't we making more revenue from the existing students? The answers to those questions would probably give you what you need to do to increase revenue. So the first possible answer could be, we only have one course. That course takes a month, and after every month, we lose 1 or 10 or 100 of the 100,000 customers, which means after a period of 10 months, you have 0 students. Yeah. So then what do you need to do for you to keep the students? If the answer was that you only have one course, then the solution there is you need to formulate more courses for these students. So then the second question you're asking yourself is, what courses would interest the students that we have today? For you to get an answer to that question, what do you need to do? You need to do some research. Speak to the existing students that you have currently. Speak to other students that you don't have on the platform to understand what are their needs right now. What are they looking for in the market? Yeah. Once you understand what they're looking for in the market, come up with sample courses, get 10 or 50 of them in the class, roll out that course, and try to see whether it's answering the question that the students who wanted more courses had. So if you look at all those small activities that we're doing to try and answer one question, which is we want to increase revenue, that is growth marketing. Can move to the next slide, right? So there are a couple of principles and frameworks when it comes to growth marketing. And the first one is experimentation. So going back to the same example, you've spoken to your existing students, you've spoken to new students in the market who are not enrolled on your program, and they'll give you varied answers. Some of them will tell you, I want to learn AI. Someone else will tell you, I want to learn search engine optimization. And someone else will just come and tell you, I want to learn content marketing. Remember, at the end of the day, the goal is you want to increase revenue by either increasing the number of students that you're who've enrolled on your system. So either move from the 100,000 to 200,000, or increase the number of courses that the 100,000 who are existing are taking, or increase the number of learning hours that the existing students are taking Or yeah, we've spoken about now getting new students over and above the 100,000. For you to answer that question, and the students have told you, some of them want to learn AI, some of them want to learn content marketing, some of them want to learn SEO. You have to develop different courses around this and then put them in the market. So pick a small group of students for each and then experiment. First of all, expose all of them to the courses. See how many of them are subscribing to SEO. See how many of them are subscribing to AI. See how many of them are subscribing to content marketing. What does it do? It gives you a sense of which is going to be the most popular course if you introduced it. It's number one. Number two, it gives you a sense of, if I was to introduce all the three to my existing 100,000 students, what percentage would take AI, what percentage would take content marketing, what percentage would take SEO. So then it helps you make a decision on either rolling out all of them, rolling out one, depending on the popularity, how much do I price SEO versus AI versus content marketing. So experimentation is really, really important. Number two, data-driven decisions. If you look at the examples I've given, what we're trying to do is, first of all, find some quantifiable insights. And when I say quantifiable insights, you have to tie it to a number. If you are to come back and say AI is going to be the most popular course, and we need to cost it at double the price of the existing course, you've done your research and you've seen that out of the 100 students I exposed the three courses to, 90% of them said they want to do AI. 5% said they wanted to do content marketing, 5% said SEO. So using that 90% to inform you that AI needs to be our second best course. And number two, looking at the number of students who would either opt for AI and something else or opt for AI alone could give you a sense of whether the course needs to be priced the same as existing courses, be priced differently. Should it be done with the other courses, or should it be a follow-up course, etc., etc.? But you're trying to look for data to help you make a decision on which course you need to add to the platform. Customer centricity. When I started asking myself, what course should I introduce next? I didn't just go and do research on the internet and then decided it's going to be AI, it's going to be content marketing or SEO. I presented this to students that I already have, presented this to potential students that I don't have that I would want, and then gotten their feedback. So customer centricity is important. You need to be solving the customer's problem and not solving a hypothetical problem based on your own research or your own experience. And then compounding growth. So for someone else, if you wanted to grow your revenue and you have a business that has 100,000 customers, automatically you just say, I need to look for another 100,000 customers for me to grow. But then the element or the concept of compounding growth aims at looking at, what do I have that's existing right now? How do I extract a bit more value from it? If I have 100,000 students, can those 100,000 students refer one student each? Then I get an extra 100,000. From this 100,000 students, is there more value that I can give them, so that if I'm making $2 from each one of them, I can make an extra dollar, so that I have an extra dollar from each of the existing 100,000 students. So that's the element of compounding growth. When it comes to the frameworks, as I've mentioned, it's important for you to track what's happening at each element of the funnel. If it's acquisition, how many customers are we acquiring? Out of the ones we are acquiring, how many of them subscribed? How many of them didn't? What is the conversion rate between acquisition and activation? After activating them, these are active customers. How many of them am I retaining week on week, month on month, depending on the cycle of your business? What is that conversion rate from first time activation to second, third, fourth usage, which translates into retention? If it's getting those customers to refer, what is the referral rate for every happy customer, every happy student that's enrolled to my program? How many of them are referring other students? And how do I utilize this to drive growth? And then it's always very important to have a North Star metric. So this is one single metric that basically captures the core product value. And two key examples here are for Spotify. For them, it's minutes listened. For Airbnb, it's nights booked. For Spotify, it's minutes listened because It's the one thing that shows you how much time and effort people invest in your product. If you go back to our example of the learning management system, then the North Star metric here is learning hours. Yeah, learning hours tells you two things. Number one, that the platform is actually valuable because you're spending time on it. Number two, if you're adding more content to the platform, it increases learning hours. Yeah. So besides just number of courses subscribed by students, you're able to see how much time they're investing in your platform. So for our learning management system, then our North Star metric would be learning hours. And then there's something that we call a growth loop concept. So how I usually look at a growth loop concept, it's informed by the type of business or the type of product that you're selling. You could have a loop that moves from referral to activation. You could have a loop that moves from retention to activation, or you could have a loop that moves from, say, loyalty to referral. And how this happens is retention to activation happens if the customer churns. So if the customer churns, you need to activate them again. I was using the ISA learning platform. I finished my course in February. I haven't logged on again. If you get me to come back, you're resurrecting me and I'm going back to activation for me to start using the platform again. So the loops are generally informed by the type of business that you're running or the product that you're selling. Next slide, please, Joy. So for you to be a successful growth marketer, it's important for you to have a growth mindset. So how I usually look at growth marketing is that it is not, I wouldn't call it a career per se. I usually say that growth marketers are not hired to fill a position, they're hired to solve a problem. And a practical example is you can have a vacancy for, say, a head of sales and marketing at Safe Border and hire someone who's going to do everything from creating awareness, creating brand loyalty, coming up with a brand culture, building a community around the product. But you can also hire someone with one specific brief, like we've been in existence for 10 years now. We are serving more than 2 million customers. We have more than 600,000 active customers every month. We haven't broken even, we need to break even. So the growth marketer needs to come and figure out why aren't we breaking even and what do we need to do to break even? Simple answers to those questions are, so we probably have poor retention. Customers are churning at a very high rate, but we're also acquiring customers at a very high rate. So it's a leaking bucket. Number two, it could be that our pricing model is off. Therefore, we're not making enough money or collecting enough commissions for us to break even. Or we're spending a lot of money on advertising and creating brand awareness, yet brand awareness is not the problem. The problem is conversion and retention. Or the challenge is that the customer experience is not good enough for customers to always choose you as their number one option. So if you look at all those examples, there's a difference between filling a role and solving a problem. So I usually look at the growth mindset as a philosophy, a practice, and a process. It has to be a philosophy because you live it. And living it means you're always asking a series of questions before you do anything. So you're asking why. And why has to start with, why are we doing this in the first place? You don't want to spend a lot of time and effort moving in the wrong direction or chasing the wrong objective or solving a problem that does not exist. So you always have to start by asking why. If we're launching a new product, learning management system, why are we launching a learning management system? Does it mean that one doesn't exist and we need to create one? Or does it mean that whatever exists in the market has a gap and we have a solution to it? Once you ask that question, the follow-up questions will guide you on what you need to do. Who are we launching this platform for? Who is going to use it? What are they going to use it for? If they're using something else, how are they using it? When do they use it? and where are these customers that we are targeting. So in growth marketing, a couple of things that you need to be keen of or aware of is that you need to see failures as data and not disasters. So when you're doing a lot of experiments, you need to use failure as a learning opportunity. If it fails, you know how not to do it. It doesn't mean that it did not work. You need to run a lot of small experiments across board. You never stop running experiments. And you need to be someone who's very curious. You have to ask questions. I usually say it's important for you to look at the problem as a naive person in the room and then ask the questions as if you didn't know what's happening. And then iterating based on evidence and not on ego. So sometimes ego comes in because of your experience, what you've done previously, as opposed to looking at what can we see from the data and what do we need to do from what we're seeing. Yeah, and lastly, I guess I'll leave you with a couple of case studies. My homework to you is to go and read a bit more about booking.com and some of the successful growth experiments that they've been able to run at different stages of their business. What was the growth problem when they started the business? What is their growth problem now when they have millions of users using the platform? And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carrington, for that presentation. Thank you so much because of your example has really put things into perspective. So now we understand that it's no longer the IDA model, sorry, funnel. I feel so wrong, still using the IDA model. But as of today, you're moving to the AAR, A squared, R squared, that is acquisition, activation, retention, and referral. So without further ado, I will welcome Joy Muthembwa, our second speaker for today. She is the digital lead at Creative Edge FCB, and she will just let us introduce herself to us. Joy, karibu.
Thank you so much, Christine, and thank you, Carrington, for that lovely presentation. I think a lot of what Carrington has talked on is going to feed into what my presentation is about, mostly because even while understanding the digital skills that employers are looking for today, when we talk about growth marketing, when we talk about performance marketing, I look at performance marketing as simply a part of growth marketing. If you think about it as a car, you think about it as fuel, kind of, that performance marketing is the fuel, and then growth marketing is what builds the whole engine. And so I'll just dive right into it. Sorry, let me just confirm if my screen can be seen. Just a moment, sorry for that. Okay, I think it should be good now. So what performance marketing really is digital marketing where you only specifically pay for results. So whether it's a purchase, whether it's that click, whether it is a new person downloading your application or someone signing up to your wait list or things like that, it's where you cost only for what you spent. So instead of saying that we got this number of likes and this number of views and this number of impressions, as we do quite a lot in our industry, now we prove it. We say we spent 100,000 Kenya shillings on this and this is what it looked like in terms of sales. And so why it's important is because it's measurable, it's scalable, and it's directly tied to business growth. And so why now more than ever? Sorry, just a moment. I have to. Lovely. So why do employers value this now more than ever? I think nowadays we don't want to just say that I've spent ads and I've gotten likes and it's not resulting in any kind of purchases or any kind of signups. And so you're finding that a lot of people are becoming a bit more stricter with their finances. We want to say that we've spent this amount of money and we've gotten exactly this. At the same time, online, it's been a whole overload of information, of sponsored ads, of things like that. And so the competition is fierce. Ads cost a lot more. It goes to the highest bidder. So your efficiency matters a lot. At the same time, only skilled people know how to truly track changes. And I like what Carrington said, that when you see data, failed data, you don't see it as a failure, you see it as a learning point. Because in this world of performance-driven marketing, data is your everything. And so at the same time, employers at the end of the day want to bring in revenue. And so performance marketers ideally will be the revenue drivers. And so what are these core skills that exist within the performance marketing space and in the larger also growth marketing space? You'll see that some of the things that are mentioned have been mentioned by Carrington, so I won't belabor on them. But one, as a digital marketer, I believe it's important to not necessarily be a jack of all trades, but to understand what is working. And so if you have paid media mastery, you may not know how to do it on every single platform, but you need to understand as a performance marketer how to set up campaigns, how to continually test creatives, how to manage budgets, how to optimize performance, what's working, what's not. You need to understand even the basics of setting up an ad, because a lot of what the mistakes that digital marketers have made in the past is, well, when it was a social media era, it was a social media era and everything was purely about social media. But when we talk about the digital landscape and the online landscape as a whole, there's a lot more that goes into it. And so if you are standing as an expert, one of the key skills that you need to at least understand is your paid media mastery. Second is also analytics and tracking. Are you able to make sense of the data that you are receiving? So can you go on Google Analytics, check your dashboards, understand what is causing a dropout from your website? Maybe many people are coming to your website based on an ad that you have, but there's no retention on the website. So how do you break down and analyze this data is also a very key skill, because at this point is where now you're actually able to optimize. Third is lead generation. A lot of spaces that I walk into are always trying to generate leads, because as a business, you want people either to buy your product, to sign up for a certain service, to book an appointment, all of that. And so the biggest lesson on lead generation is also understanding who are our quality leads, who are the leads with the intent to buy immediately, who are the people that maybe just need a little bit more convincing. And so in that space, we call it nurturing. If I want, let's say, people to come into my hair transplant clinic, I might not be interested now, but I might be curious, you know. So I'll say, I think my hairline might be receding, for example, and I don't necessarily want to try this. I don't know if people have tried it before. So I'm not really at the stage where I'm ready to get into it yet, but there is some nurturing that could go into me as a lead versus somebody else that is like, I've seen this thing being done in Turkey, I've seen the same guys are here in Kenya, I want to jump right into it. And so that's a quality lead. And so it's understanding at what stage every single one of your leads is falling in, being able to look at that data and understand it. And then we also need to understand conversion rate optimization. And so how is your landing page? For example, if I want you to apply to my school for a certain course, what is it about my landing page that would be appealing to people versus what isn't? How quickly are my people converting? What is my user experience on that page? Because it could easily be that even just the speed of the website is causing the whole thing to slow people down. And so this also involves a lot of creative, which is tied to the next point, where you test your headlines, you test your creatives, you test your call to actions. Maybe people in your school don't necessarily want to join a wait list, but they want to learn more. Maybe your call to action for something you want to sell should just be shop now, as opposed to get a quote, you know. So it's it's the world of understanding that you will need to test quite a lot. And one of the things that we really need to be comfortable with in this space as performance marketers is that you will consistently be testing out things. And so just like I said, creative strategy, you need to know what kind of content works for your people versus what doesn't. Test even different ad angles just to see what resonates with your audience and what doesn't. Kind of now tying into what I believe Carrington had mentioned earlier, is this is data-driven decision making. So as opposed to where we were going with a gut feeling of, I have a feeling my audience is on TikTok, no, here we go and say that I want to target, say for example, Carol, she's 18 years old, she lives in Nairobi, she lives in what, we find exactly what those habits are, where she is at, and using actual data, what he called it, a North Star metric to guide exactly where you want to go. And then also just to tie into what employers are looking for, I think now a lot of employers just want to hear the revenue end of it, because we need to increase revenue. So instead of just saying our clicks went up or our likes went up or, oh, our ad did well, we got 1 million views, we need to understand what that 1 million views looks like in terms of return on ad spend. And then I will not belabor on full funnel thinking and growth mindset and testing, because Carrington has talked on those. So the question I ask myself even in all of this is, does AI have a role to play in this? Especially now, because AI is taking over a lot of the things we had to do manually. And so I think AI is our friend. It is not coming in to take over our jobs. It's just here to make everything a lot better. And so when it comes to the skills that we're harnessing, whether it's our paid media mastery, these certain tools help us to our advantage to make things better. So because AI is consistently learning, collecting all that data, it can help you bid smarter, target smarter, collect your data smarter, attribute things better, so we know which leads are coming from where, or maybe most people are, going to a certain point. And so AI at every step in your journey, or in whichever performance marketing point that you are in, or whatever tactic or technique you're using, can be able to help you to make this even better. And so in the interest of time, I'll also just give you one case study as an example. I think Airbnb is one of the companies that has used growth marketing and performance marketing to level up their business, from the kind of search engine optimization they have used, to the kind of ads they have bought, to the kind of creatives and storytelling they have used. Even when we're talking about growth and performance, it goes deeper even into a level of, in this digital world and in this creator economy, we're using influencers. And so it's no longer a transactional point of, I want you to do one reel and you'll get 100,000. How can we also use these creators to generate revenue for us? So I think also, just to leave a bit of time for questions, I will pause it at that. And I will pose the question also to everybody on how we think performance marketing could be done even with influencers, because there is a way to do it. And it's all about, at the end of the day, like we said, scalable, measurable, and at the same time optimizable results. So yeah, I think with that much said, I'll just summarize and say, performance marketing sits at the crossroads of creativity, analytics, and business impact. Employers don't just want marketers, they want people who can drive that revenue. They want, at the end of the day, if you're running a business, you want to keep the lights on. And so if you're asking yourself what skill as a digital marketer you want to learn a lot better, then performance marketing is definitely one of the areas that you could scale up in. And so with that much said, I will invite Kristen back, and then maybe she can tell us what to do next. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Joy. I think that was a wonderful presentation. I hope you guys were taking notes you are screenshotting, where you are able to, it is really clear that now employers, what they are looking for is how do they, increase the revenue that they are generating? How do they employ people with the skills that not only just increase the followers and the click rate, but how does it translate to business growth? So during registration, we had asked what you want us to ask. So I'm just going to read out the questions from the audience. I'll start out with this one since it's general. How do I break into the digital marketing space as a newcomer? Anyone can just handle it, Joy or Carrington?
Okay, maybe I could take that one. As a newcomer into the digital marketing space, I think, like we've discussed and is pretty clear now more than ever, digital marketing is quite large. So it would be good to maybe learn, take a course, and then find a cause to start with. For example, if you want to get into digital marketing, your key strength maybe could be in social media. And so if it's social media, get into it, learn all about it, and then become a master at it. If it is within the media space, understand what the media space looks like. What does it take to media buy? What does it look like to create that media plan, to execute it all the way to the very end? What does reporting for that look like? And so I'd easily say, because it's a very wide space, it's good to maybe explore all the possibilities within it, because there's quite a lot. Even influencer management on its own is a skill that people specifically hone in on. And so I'd say learn the wider scope of it, and then find your niche, carve out your niche, try and understand everything, have the foundational knowledge of everything. But at the end of the day, take your key strength and specialize in as many areas as you need to, but have that key strength that you'd want to. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily propose which one should get into. I think it'll also depend on, once you learn, once you see what you like and what you find yourself easing into easily. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that really puts it into perspective. Widen your knowledge first, and then now from that you can be able to specialize. That is similar to another question that was asked. What do you think are the must-have skills for a digital marketer? I think you have already tackled that. But when you look at all the skills that you have mentioned, what do you think? Maybe, okay, it depends. I think it also depends with the interest of an individual, but what do you think are the must-have skills, sort of, if you can put it, for digital marketing? Carrington?
Well, I mean, it's a difficult one, because my answer would be very similar to Joy's answer. I mean, each one of us we all have gifts and talents and things that we're really good at. And it's important for you to figure out where your skill and talent plugs into all the areas of digital marketing. So my advice would still be, start with the fundamentals, because, for example, if you're really good at math, my assumption would be you'd also be really good at analytics. But then you cannot be very good at digital analytics if you don't understand what you're measuring. So it's important for you to be able to understand how content marketing works, how SEO works, how paid search works, video advertising. So when you have a general sense of how each one of them works, it's much easier for you to build dashboards for everything digital or something specific in digital. So I would say, I mean, contrary to other professions and careers, for digital, it will be a lot more skewed to gifts, talents, and skills that you already have. And then you pick one thing that you're passionate about, and then you focus on it.
Thank you
and
so
then
much.
lastly, you enrolled for the ISA program for digital marketing.
Thank you so much, Carrington. I think also that question, that answer ties up with another question that was asked. What can a digital marketer in the healthcare space look out for? I don't know if any of you has been in the healthcare space. You can maybe respond.
Okay, so I think I'll answer that question differently. So I'd start by asking myself, I mean, so there are two ways to look at it. Are you looking at it uh, in outwards, inwards, so as an external party getting into healthcare, or are you looking at it as a practitioner who's already in healthcare? That's number one. Number two, what problems or challenges are you trying to solve? And then is digital the solution for those challenges or problems? Because you can meet someone who runs a hospital and their biggest problem is distribution. Whether digital can solve distribution or not, I don't know. We just need to figure it out. So I'd start by asking those questions. What problem am I trying to solve? What solutions exist for that problem? What are the gaps? And then what role does digital play in solving those problems? Because, for example, if I looked at the pandemic as an example, the initial problem was that we were spreading the pandemic so fast because we either didn't know much about COVID or didn't know preventive measures, or we just didn't have access to PPEs. So those three different problems can be solved by digital differently. The first one can be solved through content marketing and a bit of SEO. The second one as well can be solved through content marketing and maybe paid search. The third one is certainly solved through an e-commerce solution, for example. So I'd start by asking those questions. The answers to those questions will sort of guide you towards what you need to do or how digital plugs into, whether it's healthcare, transport, or technology.
Thank you so much. I think the last question will come from me, and this is totally off the on top of my mind. For you, Kenny, if you were to maybe, with all the experience that you have, what would you advise someone who's just entering into the digital marketing field, or what was your biggest hurdle that you have learned throughout your experience that you can really advise a younger you who is coming up in the digital marketing space? So this will be for you and Joy. You can go first, Carrington, and then Joy. Yeah.
I was about to say ladies first. I'm trying to think about it.
Okay, ladies first.
Lovely. It's interesting to think about. The biggest hurdle I faced, maybe, okay, yeah, that it does need a bit of thinking, but it's easy to, like I said, end up being a jack of all trades. Or either that, it's both extremes. You could either be a jack of all trades and then end up specializing in none at all, or over specialize in one area, and then on this other side, the world is changing, things are changing. By this I mean, for example, when I started, I purely started in social media, and by the time I was starting, it was that social era of likes, what else? It was likes, comments, all those things. Right now, the metrics are completely different. And so I think the biggest challenge has been evolving with the time, which I think change is inevitable at the end of the day. And so I could easily say that with digital marketing, you have to get your hands dirty almost everywhere. Get yourself deep into the work, throw yourself into the fire, for you to understand what needs to be done and what doesn't, because you'd want to specialize purely on content, but if somebody else you're working with or you want to also do ads on the same content, there's content that works really well organically and there's some that does better when it's boosted. And so you have to understand digital from a wider scope of things, as opposed to just looking at one area purely and just locking in on that one exact thing. I think that could easily be what I say, but at the same time, the let me say slight paradox is you still need to have your specialization, your strength, because every other thing works to supplement what you will major on. I hope I have answered that as clearly as I could.
Indeed, it's very, very clear. Thank you so much, Joy. Carrington, we're very curious to know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still thinking, but because I mean, if I think about mistakes, there's so many, but I mean, if I was to advise my younger self, I guess I'd take up more learning opportunities and take up more responsibilities. Because what I've learned in over the last 10 plus years is sometimes we tend to focus a lot more on the noise. I usually call it there's the noise and then there's the focus and the direction and the goal. So there's a goal, you're supposed to move from A to B, but then there's a lot of noise about, okay, but I'm moving faster than so and so. Why is so and so dragging me behind? And the reason why I'm saying that is oftentimes you tend to forget the goal of why you're doing what you're doing. So if you want to be really good at digital marketing, for example, and it's SEO or whatever it is, or growth marketing, every job you get or every gig you get is an opportunity for you to learn maybe 100 ways of how not to do it, which makes it makes you better than the person who is learning the first or the second way of not doing it. And what it culminates to in every 5-year season of your life is what I call demonstrable experience. Everyone today is looking for demonstrable experience. Demonstrable experience is that I was able to grow this product from I'd say monthly revenues of $10,000 to $500,000, and this is what I did. These were the challenges we faced. This is how we navigated them. You can only be able to articulate your experience like that if you've done it. I think sometimes we often get lost in the noise, whether it's in corporate or in agency, and forget that this is an opportunity for me to actually take up this work, do it. If you're doing it for an hour, that's 1 hour of demonstrable experience. If you're doing it for a week, that's 1 week of demonstrable experience. If you're doing it for a year, that's 1 year of demonstrable experience. And also sitting from this other side where I've been privileged to hire people for the last, I think, 6 years. It's literally what I want to hear. Everything else is stories. But what people want to hear is, this is the problem you're trying to solve. I've solved a similar problem here. This is how I solved it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. I hope you've learned a thing or two. You can follow us on our socials just to, yes, we will be, there's a poll that will come to you. Please fill it out. It will help us to improve this and other webinars. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. I really hope you have gained insights. And yeah, as I was saying, you can follow us on our socials just to know what which other webinars that we are offering, what certifications can help you improve your current skill. Thank you so much, Joy Muthembwa. Thank you so much, Kenny Carrington. It was really, really insightful. So have yourselves a lovely afternoon. Let me not forget to recognize my colleague. She's called Teresa. Thank you so much. Hope to see you soon. Have a lovely weekend ahead. Yeah. And please take the poll. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.